Good afternoon, members. This is the appointed time, and we have a quorum. So I call this meeting to order. Now, let me invite the administration to come in. Members, if you want to speak, please press the Request to Speak button. For today's meeting, we're joined by the team, and I see them coming in. We're joined by Professor Sun Dong and his team, including Dr. Min Ge, as well as Mr. Daniel Zhang, Acting Commissioner for Digital Policy. So when you're ready, Professor Sun, please walk us through the paper. Good afternoon, members, Chairman. I'd like to brief members on the latest development of AI and robotics in Hong Kong, as well as the overall planning and direction of development of the government in this regard. Now, AI and robotics are developing very rapidly. They've emerged from large language models to embodied intelligence capable of interacting with the physical world and interacting with our economy and society. It's deeply integrated. It is also a key driver of development. The government follows the Hong Kong Innovation Technology Development Blueprint. We also lay out systematic plans and proactive implementation strategies to grasp the opportunities. On development, we want dual-track development of AI and industries, and that's AI for industries and industries for AI. We will foster R&D to encourage more enterprises to set up presence here. We'll also apply AI on different areas of public services and different sectors, so as to develop more application scenarios. The Hong Kong Science and Technology Parks Corporation and Cyberport campuses have formed an industrial cluster, and the two facilities are home to nearly 1,000 AI and robotic-related enterprises and startups. Among the 90 enterprises set up in the loop, 40% or more than 40% of them are related to AI and robotics. And on research, development, and commercialization through Inno Hong Kong platform, as well as other schemes such as the Race Plus scheme, we support the development and commercialization of AI and robotics-related research. The Hong Kong Artificial Intelligence Research and Development Institute is wholly owned by the government. It said it has been commissioned. It will commence operation in the second half of this year. We will also continue to enhance the competitiveness and enhance productivity with the use of AI and robotics. We have, for example, the New Industrialization Acceleration Scheme, and we've also set up the I&T industry-oriented fund to help the industry adopt AI. And we're continuing to enhance our total computing power, including the construction of the Sandy Ridge Data Facility Cluster, which will provide a pivotal support for AI's development and application. On governance, we've rolled out the relevant governance rules and the framework, and we've also set up an interdepartmental working group on reviewing legislation to support wider application of AI, which will provide a balance between risk management and fostering innovation. We'll continue to collaborate with the mainland and the world, and through collaborating with them, we will promote development. Now, our country has set out some very clear goals and that is to, under the AI Plus strategy, we will continue to promote deep integration of AI and robotics technology and industrial innovation. And we are now beginning the first 5-year plans public consultation in Hong Kong. We'll actively dovetail with the national strategy and continue to enhance technological breakthroughs and industrial developments. Will also improve governance. I would like to seek your invaluable views, especially on how we can leverage on our advantages to dovetail with national planning on AI and robotics and the cross-boundary flow of data and institutional innovation. We welcome questions. Right, thank you. Secretary, is now open for members to ask questions. Let me read out the names in this order. Mr. Ray Wong, Chen Xiu-hong, Moon Kit, Elizabeth Quat, Andrew Lam, Grace Chan, Nick Chan, and Jonathan Lambert. 8 members in total. We do have a lot of time for this meeting. I will give each member 5 minutes. Mr. Ray Wong will start first. I'd like to speak on the paragraph 14 in relation to the digital transformation support pilot scheme totaling $300 million. Now, of course, this is the right direction for supporting SMEs, but I have 3 suggestions. First, we should lift the restrictions on sectors, and we should scrap the restriction on F&B and retail industries, because for this pilot scheme it applies to only 2 sectors on a pilot basis. Now the government should break the barrier by lifting the restrictions so that for the SMEs in the import-export sectors and other sectors they can benefit as well. The second suggestion is to adopt a top-level design and so that we have 0 administrative cost. At the moment the application procedures are cumbersome. These add to the burden of SMEs. The government should introduce a direct mechanism, and following the Singapore's model, direct concessions or discounts should be given to service providers when the SMEs procure services from them, so as to lower the administrative cost. The third suggestion is to set a baseline for computing power's price. At the moment, this price level continues to soar from 5% to 34%, and enterprises bear the headwinds. We should not allow our subsidies to go to waste unnecessarily. The the bureau should be the gatekeeper, so that we set a bottom line for the market prices. This way, we can protect enterprises and we can prevent malicious jacking up of prices, so that we make sure that every penny spent by the government is well worth. Secretary, for the 3 questions, I will now invite Ms. Cheryl Chow, Deputy Secretary, to answer the question on digital transformation support pilot scheme. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Wong, for your comments. In fact, for the DTSPP, we are now preparing for the second round. Now, Mr. Wong mentioned relaxing the restrictions on the types of sectors, and this is definitely something we'll consider. The other point is that we want to facilitate SMEs in the application process so that they can adopt digital solutions as quickly as possible. Now, on computing power, the member talked about measures to prevent prices from being jacked up. And in fact, the Digital Policy Office and the Cyberport are reviewing the solutions available in the market. So just like in phase 1, we want to make sure that reasonable solutions will be made available in the market and that SMEs will be able to utilize the off-the-shelf solutions immediately. All these will be included in our enhancement measures for the second round, so that SMEs will be able to use AI and adopt solutions suited for their needs. Any follow-up question? If not, Mr. Chen Xiu-hong. Thank you. Chairman, I'm concerned about governance and regulation. In paragraphs 21 and 22, at the moment, there is no specific legislation governing the development or application of embodied intelligence. Instead, we rely on the relevant authorities or personnel in their respective purviews. I understand that the interdepartmental working group has been set up. The group will look at the relevant issues as well as possible solutions, including dedicated legislation. So, Secretary, since you know that I've been following up on this issue, I'd like to ask this further question. Now, at the moment, different policy bureaus work in silos. For example, they table in legislative amendment proposals, and it takes 1, 2, or even 3 years for the whole process to be completed, from consultation to drafting to examination by LegCo. So my question is whether the government will make reference to the European Union's model so that we draw up a whole set of rules and regulations, or if we could follow the practices of other jurisdictions such as Singapore, that is, we can set up a legal framework, or we can choose to rely on technical guidelines, as long as they suit the circumstances locally. Now, my second question is this. We have, say, the new kind of robots with embodied intelligence, and it's now easily available on online shopping sites. And that, for example, you have the humanoid with this brand starting with the letter U, and it's not costly. It just costs $100,000 to $1 million. The robot can even dance. Now, my question is this, Chairman. What if I take this robot to the street? Then will it be subject to any regulation, say for drones? If it's lighter than 150 kilograms, I mean, this is a tiered approach with different rules applying to different weight of drones. And there is a legal framework. You may have to buy insurance for your drone. But let's say if it's a humanoid and if it's out of control of our laws, then I want to know whether it will be held liable according to our legal framework. So I want the Secretary to take this question, please. Secretary, thank you, Mr. Chan. He has all along followed up on this issue. Now, to answer your question, according to the current legislation in Hong Kong, in principle, all legislation that prevents the commission of crime applies to the cyber world as well, including the different scenarios involving AI, and this is the conclusion we get after seeking advice from the Department of Justice, including the Crimes Ordinance and other relevant regulations. I'm not going to dwell on these provisions. But in March this year, the Department of Justice set up the Interdepartmental Working Group to review legislation to support the wide application of AI. They will review the relevant loopholes and explore practical solutions. And this is in fact what our government is doing. On AI's development, our position is very clear. We must not turn a blind eye to its development. And second, we must not put a straitjacket on it. Mr. Chan asked whether we should follow the EU standard. But you also talked about the Singapore, the practice in Singapore, and that is to set up guidelines only, with emphasis on development. And this is actually similar to the position of our country. Even for the US is pro-development. So it's very difficult to copy the model of a particular jurisdiction. We need to have regard to our own circumstances. So I think on control and governance of AI, we need to review our existing measures. I believe we are heading in the right direction. Mr. Chan Siew-Hong also asked about the application of embodied intelligence and robots or humanoids in the future. I fully appreciate his concern. After all, it's something new. When it's gradually adopted by the community in general, we need to be careful. There are different types of robots, different tiers, including those for use at home. We have those so-called cleaning robots. They are absolutely, they are safe. The manufacturers would introduce relevant specifications. Now, in the future, there will be more and more humanoids working in the families of our people. So I think definitely we need to draw up legal framework because even for pets, they come with chips nowadays. In the future, if we have robots at home, definitely there may be some sort of licensing system or registration system so that at least we know the ownership of these robots. I think that all these concerns and suggestions are reasonable, and we're still at the initial stage when it comes to development of robots. I believe that the whole world is watching and they are considering very carefully. Because after all, if we are to draw up laws, we need to have regard to the practical circumstances, and there will be difficulties. For example, when it comes to manufacturers, developers of robots, we need to develop, for example, the safety coefficients. We need to have quality assurance. We also need to step up the regulation of robots. Now, in the interest of time, I'll just stop here. Thank you for the question.
Chairman, with your permission, one comment from me. The Transport and Logistics Bureau will also consult on electric mobility devices. By the end of this year, the TLB will come back with a legislative proposal. That's because the TLB foresees potential safety hazards when people use those EMDs on the street. So, in a similar vein, I urge the Secretary to go fast. So, licensing, registration, and insurance, we should start studying these matters. You will need a year or so before you can come back with results. The Financial Secretary leads the Committee on AI Plus and Industry Development Strategy. The focus is on healthcare and embodied intelligence. Mr. Chen's comments will be taken to this committee. Mr. Mbunket. I welcome this detailed paper on robotics and artificial intelligence. On policy, R&D, and talent, the government has a comprehensive plan. This shows Hong Kong's determination to become an international innovation and technology center. On GBA collaboration and alignment with national plans, I have some questions. The paper says we have to align with the National 15th Five-Year Plan and the AI Plus initiative. There's a memorandum of understanding through which we step up collaboration with the mainland in the Loop area. So apart from bringing in tech firms on the use of AI, data, computing power, and algorithms, do we have a specific timetable for the alignment? Can we have a white list for cross-boundary data flow? Do we have any progress on this front? Our country is going big on new quality productive forces. How do we give play to our advantage of one country, two systems? On AI and patents, how do we play a more proactive role? Secretary. I thank Mr. Ng for his questions. On the cross-boundary flow of the elements of production in INT, this is a major concern to us, and we're anxious to see progress. It's almost 4 years since I took this job. On the cross-boundary flow of elements, we have achieved solid progress. In 2023, we signed an agreement on the cross-boundary flow of personal data, which is sensitive data, with the Cyberspace Administration of China. And then we agreed on standard contracts within the GBA to foster the cross-boundary flow of data. We now have 150 or 160 businesses working together. 40% of them involve mostly mainland data. And then we also have data coming from the mainland to Hong Kong. As a next step, we would like to see further breakthrough at the Loop. We have ironed out the details with Shenzhen. We're just waiting for the top-level approval. On the cross-boundary flow of those factors of production, there are also concerns on the part of national authorities. We have to ensure security. We have to be detailed and meticulous in our approach. We hope that for the Hong Kong Park in the loop, we can have data and specimen coming to Hong Kong. We don't have to worry about the sharing of computing power. We open up our computing power. We welcome users from around the world to tap our computing power. In the future, the Sandy Ridge Data Facility will be operational in phases. We will welcome users from far and wide, so we don't have to worry about sharing. On the AI Supercomputing Center in Cyberport, their computing capacity is limited. Local users are first in line in accessing the power. The uptake at the center is 90%. For local eligible users, we also give support. 70 to 90% of the costs are borne by the government. So local businesses and local bodies are first in line in access to the computing center. So that's all I have to say. Ms. Elizabeth Quart. I want to write on Mr. Chen Xiuhong's question on governance and regulation of robots. Media reports and feedback from parents have brought up the issue of emotional reliance about chatbots. We have seen cases overseas where teenagers or young people talked to chatbots and then the young people took their lives. It doesn't matter if the robot is humanoid. Seniors, especially those living alone, talk to chatbots. Children also talk to chatbots online. There is no regulation on this space. We have yet to see many seniors talking to chatbots, but I believe once we have chatbots fluent in Cantonese, that will change. How do we guard against the spreading of negative or dangerous messages through chatbots to children and seniors? So I wonder what the Bureau thinks. Now, on crimes involving deepfake. Deepfake pornography should be regulated. There are elderly care robots. They may not be humanoid yet. I've heard that there's a moving toilet bowl that shows promise, so the toilet bowl can follow the senior wherever they go. There's also a robot to help seniors take a shower, or robots assisting seniors with answering calls of nature. So those robots are entering the market. The moving toilet bowl is $30,000 a piece. It's selling well. So those robots will become part of people's daily lives. Without any standards or regulation of such robots, you will see robots moving around in people's homes, and will that give rise to danger? Maybe a fire will start and there's no insurance coverage. We have to anticipate these problems. It's the same approach for the low altitude economy. Drones are also robots. They're just robots that fly. Drones come in different tiers, they come in different weights. We have a tiered regulatory approach to drones at different weight levels, so those below 25 kilograms and those above 25 kilograms. We also require insurance coverage. We also require a unique ID for drones. So does it mean that we leave robots that are not drones unregulated? Without planning in advance, there will be a blame game. People will point their fingers at the government and each other. That's the last thing we want to see. So we want the government to look into the matter and come up with regulatory frameworks. Secretary, she brought up many points. The central message is tougher regulation is needed. Many challenges are shared challenges. Chatbots, social media, young people, deepfake, those are shared challenges around the world. Some countries are opting for legislation, but little has come of it. We have to keep an open mind. We have to take a meticulous approach to analyzing the root of the issue. We want to get the regulation right before robots are in use. I believe that's the message from Ms. Quad. On the regulation of humanoid robots, we're still watching the usage of robots. We're now encouraging the use of robots. Robots have yet to take off in Hong Kong. In the mainland, robots are in greater use. We're looking at the experience of the mainland about their regulatory approach. We're looking in particular at the safety design of the making of robots. We're also looking at Singapore and the US. Do they have laws or regulations? Those areas merit our attention. Drones are a different story. Starting from the late 1990s, drones have been under research and development and in use. Drones may fall off right away. There's also an issue with drone operation. That's why we're looking into efforts to step up the regulation of drones. That's understandable. Drones or AI, at the root of the problem, it is about how you apply the AI. In our own Hong Kong Artificial Intelligence Technical and Application Guideline, we distinguish between acceptable and unacceptable risks. High risks, limited risks, low risks, and no risks. We tailor our measures to the risk level. We should not overreact to a low-level factor. Of course, it's just as wrong to leave a high-risk problem unregulated. Ms. Quat also mentioned deepfake. The Law Reform Commission has a subcommittee on computer-related crimes. They are looking into computer-related crimes. They're in phase 2, and they're looking at computer or cyber-enabled crimes. And by cyber-enabled crimes, they're talking about crimes committed with the help of or through cyber technologies. That subcommittee is still studying the matter. As far as we know, for deepfake-related crimes, they have reviewed the matter and they will come up with recommendations. I'm raising this matter for a reason. Relevant departments are facing up to the loopholes in the law. They are taking relevant measures. I will stop here. Mr. Andrew Lam. The paper deals extensively with the use of artificial intelligence. The government has taken steps to address these issues. I'm looking at Hong Kong's economy and the structure of our GDP. A quarter of that is in the public services. This means the government plays a huge role in driving industries. Even at the last term of the Legislative Council in the 2022 to 23 budget, we were already talking about the e-government audit, $600 million over 3 years. So that audit should be completed by now. roughly 70 bureaus and departments were within scope. What measures are going well? And what initiatives are struggling? What obstacles are there? At the policy level, what will we do about these challenges? When we say e-government services, we're talking about big data and AI and their application. So for big data and AI, how are we coming along in applying the technology? Is it doing well? If not, what's our goal?
主席，谢。
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Lam, for the questions. Now, you talked about industrial development. What industries are you exactly referring to? As I said in the outset, I mean, the Secretary also mentioned it. Industries for AI and AI for industries. Right, so you're talking about the industry of AI, application of AI on public services, right? Okay, because for industries it covers a wide scope. So when it comes to AI, I think you're referring to public services and the adoption of AI. So I will give the floor to Mr. Zhang from the DPO to answer the question. Now about the 8 solutions under the so-called e-government audit. Last year, we introduced the measures. They are very effective. Like Mr. Lam said, through e-government audit, many government departments have opted for solutions that could help improve their workflow and the delivery of public services. For example, we have a common platform now the e-government audit will run for 2 years. Initially, some government departments required more help from our office, but afterwards, these government departments got familiar with the process and we see enhancement of the work efficiency. Now the Deputy Chief Secretary for Administration also leads another unit, and that's the AI efficiency enhancement unit. Apart from reviewing the work processes, we also review how, after adopting AI, we can help enhance the delivery of public services. This is how AI empowers our work, and we're going to look into the proposals put forward by government departments, and I think that the Deputy Chief Secretary will make announcements in due course. I'd like to supplement. I thank Mr. Lam for raising this question because I'm very grateful because I've often heard questions of another nature, and that is how do we quicken the pace of development. And let me also supplement what Mr. Zhang said. We place emphasis on industries and AI, and this is our priority. Now, in fact, we now have some 90 enterprises set up in the 2 buildings of the Loop, and half of them are related to AI. And over the past 2 years, for Cyberport and the Science Park, we also have attracted 1,000 enterprises related to AI as well. So we are their first choice when it comes to development. And we've also have some other homebrew companies such as DJI and SenseTime. And there are also 16 platforms under Hong Kong that supports the development of AI. In the first 5-year plan, we're also going to incorporate the development of AI, in particular AI and industries. And we need to take forward a number of things such as infrastructure, computing power, data infrastructure. We have the cyberport, and we also need to relax rules, set indicators to promote development, and we also need to strike a balance for those who want us to focus on attracting businesses. And that is why the FS will set up a steering committee. Now, of course, we need to focus on AI as well as the other highly indexed healthcare. I will continue to liaise with this council and exchange views with members. Ms. Grace Chen. According to the paper, under Inno Hong Kong, there was an R&D center focusing on healthcare technologies and robots. So I think the relevant technologies are, for example, remote surveillance, anti-fall mechanisms. Well, I want to know when these technologies can apply to residential care homes or even home care services. Will the government consider setting up a dedicated platform or a central procurement platform with consultants to provide technical support and help us choose the most suitable solution? The other point is, in the coming few years, we're all going to make the greatest efforts, and that different sectors will begin to adopt AI or robots. So I think we should conduct a baseline survey. We should conduct a study that includes our observations. We should also track the results. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ms. Chan, for the questions. You talked about the use of robots in healthcare technology. This is a very important development direction. This is also encouraged by the Hong Kong government. In fact, we have medical robots widely deployed in hospitals in Hong Kong, especially in surgeries. We also have platforms supporting similar research projects. In fact, these robots are quite extensively used in hospitals in Hong Kong now. There are also related technologies that help provide healthcare services. As I understand, there are different solutions already adopted or already being tried by hospitals in Hong Kong as well. These products come with very stringent requirements. Technologically, the threshold is very high. I just want to share this with you. But I think it will take some time before they are deployed on a wider scale. When it comes to deploying these technologies for elderly care, home-based care, I think we still have a long way to go because we need to resolve issues such as safety and reliability, and these are technical issues. And that we also need to address other ethical issues such as legality and ethics. So this will be this will still take some time. We're going to report to this subcommittee how we make use of AI and general technology to cope with the aging population, which covers health management, telehealth, service, community support, retirement care, etc., as well as promotion of silver economy. We also have another committee led by the Deputy Chief Secretary, focusing on, say, the silver economy. In the first 5-year plan of Hong Kong, we are also going to consider all the points you raised. So I think that you look forward to the breakthrough. Mr. Nick Chan, thank you, Chair. Now, AI and robotics are developing rapidly. I'd like to ask the following question. That is, how does the government address the bottlenecks such as chips, computing power, and demand for power? And these are the three questions. These are the 3 points that can help us enhance international competitiveness. And do allow me to ask a second question. It seems that the geopolitical tensions have eased after the Chinese-U.S. summit meeting, and that I want to know whether this will bring a positive or negative impact to our development of AI and robotics, whether we can grasp this opportunity to take forward development and leverage on our advantages. Another question is about this phrase in the paper, promoting technology with talents, leading industries with technology, and attracting talents with industries. Now, I fully appreciate this approach. Nowadays, many young people may ask what they should do in the future or what they should be studying, because nowadays we don't even need coding to be versant in computer. So what should I do? How do professionals like doctors, lawyers, accountants come in? These are 3 interesting questions. Thank you, Mr. Chan, for the questions. Now, first on robotics, you asked how we address bottlenecks. Now, we have robots used in manufacturing. We also have robots delivering services. In our country, things are developing quite well. In fact, we are leading the world, and we also have a lot of successful enterprises. So we're quite confident when it comes to the application of the technology. I think that our country enjoys an edge. So it doesn't just cover robots, but other areas of technologies as well. In other areas, we may not fare as well, but in these areas, our country is developing quite well. When it comes to robot, there may be future technological breakthroughs because it's not a single discipline. It involves different areas such as engineering, integrated circuits, etc. I would say that there are bottlenecks, but we need to be confident. The next question is about geopolitical tensions and that whether we enjoy advantages when it comes to development of AI and robotics. That's your question, right? Now, I think the first advantage that we have is our talent and research and development. This is beyond comparison. The second point is that we are an international city. We have an internationalized platform for financing. We offer high-end services. We provide professional services such as legal services, etc. Again, we do enjoy an edge. Now, the third question is how should I advise the next generation as to what to study? I don't think I can give you a happy answer because you are the expert when it comes to the law and you're also an NPC delegate. So should your kid be studying medicine or engineering, so on and so forth? Well, I don't think it's easy to say, but all in all, we need to take forward high quality development. Even if you read law, you need to know AI, right? You need to adapt to the new era. Technology exists in every field. So you need to equip yourself on all fronts, regardless of the discipline, regardless of the subject you take, you need to practice lifelong learning. That's my advice. Any follow-up? No? Mr. Jonathan Lampert. Thank you, Chairman. The business sector and myself support the government's initiative in developing AI and robotics. These are important drivers of cultivating new quality productive forces. The government has also made a lot of commitments, and the business sector fully appreciates that. But as a member representing the business sector, I'm concerned about the efficiency of resource allocation and the investment return since the public offers are involved. Now, the paper refers to Inno Hong Kong, this platform, as well as the Hong Kong AI Research and Development Institute. There is also another center, that is the Hong Kong Industrial AI and Robotics Center under the Hong Kong Productivity Council. And ASTRI also operates another institute. I want to know whether there is any coordination mechanism because there seems to be different institutions set up. Can you explain whether there's a clear division of work to make sure that public resources can be optimally used on promoting R&D? Now, on investment, I see that the government has put in $1.1 billion for one of the funds, as well as that's the I&T fund, as well as the $10 billion I&T industry-oriented fund, which will be launched soon. Now, the business sector supports these funds and schemes. These are long-term investments, but I'm concerned about how this translates to real benefits, because for SMEs and the community in general, they have yet to get a share of the dividend of development. So my question for the Secretary is, how do we make sure that when it comes to AI for industries, these will be practically implemented so that the R&D outcomes can translate to real benefits?
权议员。
Thank you. I thank Mr. Lamport for his questions. He asked about R&D. Our positioning is clear. For the future and now, we focus on the 5 top-notch universities, 3 industry parks, and 5 public research bodies. We are pursuing coordinated development across the upstream, midstream, and downstream sectors. Our future lies in the Northern Metropolis. We will see a new development pattern of finance in the south and I&T in the north. We turn Hong Kong into an I&T hub. We will become a hub of top-notch international talent. For the positioning of each such public research body, I will spare the member the details. But I can assure the member that there will be no duplication to make sure that public funds are spent properly. The second question is how we can get everybody to feel the outcome of our investment. Over the past few years, even during the economic slowdown, there was a moderate increase in the investment. As at 2024, our investment in I&T was 1.13% of our GDP. We were far off from the mainland's 2.73%. The government committed $20 billion or so, whereas businesses invested $10 billion or so. We are a long way off from the mainland, from Singapore, and from other countries in Europe. But our investment in R&D is gradually going up. And we are already seeing results of investment in I&T. We want to become an I&T center. We have to go faster. And this is also a form of recognition of our effort. We used to focus just on foundational research. There were results. How come we got 5 of the world's top 100 universities? Much of that hinges on R&D. Basic research brings in talent. Businesses see the robust I&T ecosystem here, so they come here to get listed. We don't see the money coming out of the I&T, but our I&T ecosystem is booming. That's why people can see that we have an edge, and this is not something you can measure with money. And I also want to take you through some metrics. In 2023 and 2024, our manufacturing and new industry-related industries saw a growth more than 8% year on year in 2023 and 2024. That's because we doubled down on the new industrialization funding scheme. We supported local industries in adopting new technologies. We also brought in many businesses. After putting in the work, they're seeing results. In 2024, manufacturing and new industries made up 3.8% of our GDP. In the second half of this year, we will see the 2025 figures. We believe that figure will go up to 4% or even higher. Local startups in 2024 exceeded 5,200 firms. We now have more than 20 unicorns. Those are solid results. That's just the beginning. We're not complacent. We have to go faster with INT. We now have the new industrialization acceleration scheme. Take the NIAS. We applied for $10 billion. Businesses are building their manufacturing bases here. We support 5 enterprises. They're now setting up the operation and getting the land, so the money is still there. We have to give it time. So now we're in the preparatory phase. In a few years' time, we will see the results. So we will have to give INT time to see results. But if we don't put in the effort now, we will see no result. We put in the work, we don't see the results right away, but in 5 years or 10 years' time, we will see results. I look forward to the results. Mr. Ken Lee. 3 questions. It's about a balance between development and regulation. So I have 2 questions for development. I look forward to development on the talent front. Different industries need to harness AI. I agree. I have a friend in INT. I had a chat with my friend. My friend compared the application of AI across 2 offices. The office in Malaysia used tokens worth $2,000 per month. In the Hong Kong office, the colleagues are only using tokens worth $200 per month. You see a huge gap between the Malaysian office and the Hong Kong office. Now, in paragraph 14, we see the digital transformation support pilot scheme. For this scheme, I wonder if we can earmark a certain percentage, maybe 10% of the pilot scheme. Can we earmark money under this scheme for SMEs to train their employees on the use of AI so that workers can make greater use of AI? Now, my other question has to do with the work done by the government in Guangzhou. They're trying to develop their own vertical AI. Mr. Grace Chen also mentioned the central procuring platform. The government said it's working in the same direction. I wonder if we can have a timetable. Now, my next question has to do with regulation. The iteration of AI moves at breakneck pace. How do we make sure our regulation can move quickly and keep pace? In a few months' time, a new generation of AI tools emerge, but our laws take years to change. How do we make sure our laws can keep up so that our regulation does not hold back AI development? I thank Mr. Lee for his questions. Ms. Cheryl Chow will answer the questions. I thank Mr. Lee for his question about the DTSPP. He wondered if we can set aside part of that scheme for corporate training. The funding is modest in sum. The pilot scheme is there to help businesses access off-the-shelf AI tools. We leave it up to firms to decide whether extra training can be provided for their employees. Those tools will be rather rudimentary. On the training of talent, we have the AI for All training program. We're working with the Hong Kong Productivity Council. This is about the training needs of workers in different industries. We hope we can provide training free of charge so that businesses can arrange the training for their workers. So it really depends on the needs of different companies. We want to make sure that people know how to use the training and they can make the most of the training. I have a question for the member. What does he mean by his second question? Some in the Guangzhou government developed their own vertical models. Mr. Daniel Chung can take that question. On vertical language models, Hong Kong Guy has tools such as HK Chat, HK Meeting. Some industries want to develop their own vertical models. At the Cyberport, there is the AI supercomputing center. They offer computing power at the level of 3,000 pflops for specific industries such as healthcare, insurance, and education. If anyone wants to develop or train an AI model for specific industries, they can turn to the AI subsidy scheme for funding. We have funded over 40 projects. This support will aid the development of vertical models. On the third question, which is about regulation, I want to make a comment. I've said much about AI. We're working on that. Many members have expressed concerns about humanoid robots. We're watching closely our country's development because we have to move in lockstep with our country. 2 months ago, the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology laid down the standards for robots. Across many areas, there's a need to reconcile development and security. On the standards governing robots, the MIIT has released this set of standards covering the component, application scenario, safety, ethical framework. Much of the focus lies on the R&D of humanoid robots. What kinds of robots can be allowed to go on the market? So this is something from 2 months ago, our country's own document. We're studying this document. There are many robot makers in the mainland. We don't have our own local robot makers yet. So we can look to our country's standards. Safety and ethics are a key part of the standards. So we can learn from the standards in place in the mainland. Dr. Ge Ming is also leading his team in studying this standard so that we can come up with our own guidelines. I hope this answers the question from members. We align with our country's practice. Next, Mr. Chen Choukuang. I have a similar question to those raised by Mr. Chen Xiuhong, Ms. Elizabeth Kwok, and Mr. Ken Lee on AI and embodied intelligence. We're not worried about the government's work. We have confidence. But we're worried about when things go wrong. can we have some sort of a circuit breaker? It's like what you see in novels. There are 3 principles for robots. These principles were laid down decades ago. Technology moves at breakneck speed. Is there a way for us to put a brake on the development? And that's what I mean by a circuit breaker.
特区政府我们
Secretary, thank you, Mr. Chan, for the comments. I think that our policy is to actively dovetail with national policy, and that means we're not going to over-regulate, nor will we turn a blind eye to issues. We just follow the country's directions. And we must acknowledge that when it comes to development of AI and robotics, our country has acquired a lot of experience. Whereas in Hong Kong, in particular for robots, we do not have a lot of experience. So we need to rely on the mainland experience. At this stage, we plan to follow the overall strategy of our country. They have a circuit breaker mechanism on major principles. They uphold them strictly. They have zero tolerance for these issues. For example, they absolutely do not allow robots to hurt people. For robots that are not up to safety standard, they will be regulated, will pursue liabilities. And these are things that we need to mull over. Because we do not have a registration system, if we do not have regulations or regular maintenance requirements, how do we use the robots? So I think that things are evolving, things are developing rapidly. We are not going to stay at the very front. We do not have the experience of extensive application of robots. We don't have experience. So our approach is to follow our country's solutions and our country's directions. But I can't rule out that, say, in years' time, there may be rapid developments in Hong Kong as well. And we can plan in a forward-looking approach. In fact, for AI governance, we are contemplating the relevant issues. And we do make reference to the laws and regulations in our country as well as other countries as well. So we have experience in research and development, but in other areas we'll continue to learn from others. Right? Are there members who would like to ask questions for the second round? Because after Professor William Wong has spoken, that will be the end of the first round, and Ms. Elizabeth Kwok would like to speak for the second round. And then following that, we'll adjourn the meeting. Professor Wong. Thank you, Chair. I want to supplement that, of course, we need to have regard to the mainland standards, but at the same time, we need to have regard to our differences in terms of the pace of development. Inclusion is another important point, and that is how well this is accepted by society. One point may be emphasized by our country, but not here, and we may need to consider this very important point of inclusion. Now, recently there's been something like the OPC. We need to sharpen our tools in order to succeed. So when it comes to this issue, I think it's time that we cool down, and that you can't just rely on a magic word OPC. More importantly, it needs to come with a business model that is viable. The second point is robots. We've all heard of this case in Macau. A passersby was frightened by a robot. Can we work on it as quickly as possible? Say, if a humanoid robot is used in a company or in a public place, then at least you should put up a sign telling others that there is a humanoid around. And that's in fact the case when we install CCTVs. My third point is this. In fact, I've received calls of inquiry. There is this brand that develops generative AI, and that it gives out wrong answers, and that affects the reputation of a company. For example, somebody may key in a question about this company, and the answer is that this company is going bankrupt. Well, this is all due to hallucination of the AI. I think the answer is just to write directly to that company, but I think it's very difficult. And we've heard of these cases. Will there be any support from the government, for example, a central hotline, so that victims may ring in and file the complaints, and then something can be done on a collective scale? 3 points, Secretary. Thank you, Professor Wong, for the question about the OBC. I think that the government keeps an open mind. We're all entitled to our own views. Maybe at this point it's not developing as rapidly as we would like to, but then after a while things may change, and the government is technically neutral. I think that we want to encourage more startups to set up presence here. The second question is about the case you mentioned in Macau. This is, of course, a familiar case to us. I think this brings out the potential problem that is for users of these robots. We need to regard them as a stakeholder as well, and not just developers. So I think, yes, this is something we need to explore for our next step. The third point is about generative AI going wrong. Now, you mentioned this generative AI is not a company in Hong Kong. So do tell us, Professor Wong, if you have good ideas what our government can do. Say, set up an AI 999 hotline. Take calls. When you have a critical mass, when you have received enough complaints, you can then intervene and talk to that company. Well, I think this is one of the suggestions. Professor Wong has suggested setting up a hotline called AI 999. So let me share with you how we deal with the feedback. There is actually feedback from users. They also put in a disclaimer that their answers may not be 100% accurate. But then you mentioned an extreme case. This answer may be given on a malicious basis. I'm not sure, but it's a learning process. There are different generative AI systems good at different areas. But let's say if there are many complaints from members of the public about a certain product going wrong, then indeed the government can issue a warning telling others not to use that product. But after all, this is not developed in Hong Kong. We can just ask people not to use it. Ms. Elizabeth Quad, second round. Secretary, I'd like to talk about development. We strongly support the development of AI in Hong Kong. We've been discussing AI enough, and today it seems that the focus is on AI as well as robotics. Now we have Science Park, Cyberport, and the Loop, and they're home to many AI companies. There are also companies developing robotics. I'd like to have figures in relation to these different companies, and I'd like to know whether we have special support for companies in Hong Kong conducting R&D on robotics, because apart from funding support for them to set a presence in the Loop, they need lab space, because if they conduct R&D on humanoids, we need space for these robots to go around. And then in the park, if the humanoids are not allowed to move about, then it's difficult to conduct trials. So I want to know if special support can be given. And apart from allowing them to use lab space, will there be other supporting measures? That is, will the government departments give priority to robots developed by local R&D institutions? Because I understand that, Secretary, you also encourage government departments to try out different technologies, including robotics developed in Hong Kong. Now, is there an avenue for government departments to try the local R&D outcomes? Because they need to apply their research outcomes to different application scenarios. Say if they win international awards, then will there be extra incentive? Will we help them promote the work? Will we help them get more funding to continue with the research? Because I want more support for robotics companies in Hong Kong. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ms. Quat, for the questions. You asked about the development of robotics in Hong Kong and our support measures. Now, embodied intelligence is something new to Hong Kong. We have 3 facilities, 3 parks hosting 120 enterprises and startups focusing on AI. But when it comes to embodied intelligence, it's hard to say whether it's just robotics or humanoid robots or what, because these companies are involved in AI as well as robotics. If you're talking about the number, we have several hundred of them. As for our support measures, we've always prioritized the development of AI and robotics, be it the R&T fund and I&T industry-oriented fund. We place emphasis on the same, that is AI and robotics. So I'd say the government provides policy support. The next question is whether we have a lot of companies in Hong Kong conducting R&D on robots. Well, I think that we are a late starter, and we do require the whole chain of production. We need, for example, spare parts. We need the manufacturing line, assembling line, and that in fact, for China Chinese mainland and the U.S., they have a very big market, and they have developed the technology for decades. Whereas in Hong Kong, we focus on R&D or application on a limited scale. You talk about lab space. For our advanced manufacturing and other related industries, this is crucial. We are very anxious about the use of space in Northern Metropolis as well. That is, how much land can be made available for supporting the development. And we also have the new industrialization acceleration scheme. Now, Ms. Quat, you are concerned about low altitude economy, and if it works, then I'm sure that you'll be very happy. This is very exciting. Definitely, we will be able to support your idea of development of lower altitude economy as well. The third question is giving priority to local products. Well, from the I&T point of view, this is something that we have been encouraging. We have schemes, for example. Now, if this is the product developed by a local enterprise in collaboration with the government, then definitely this will be the government's priority in the procurement process without contravening the WTO requirements. In fact, we do have the Drainage Services Department, Highways Department, etc., adopting the drones and robots developed here. I think that after winning, say, the Geneva Award, the government will continue to put in more efforts. Not to mention the committee due to be set up. I'm sure that this will be the focus of the government.
Can we allow greater access to robots in those industry parks? So that's for the industry parks. We keep an open mind. The industry parks also have to think through their own reasons. If it's safe, the industry parks may open up their areas to robots. From what I know, we still have to overcome technical hurdles before we can allow humanoid robots to move around. The MIT set out standards for a reason. 5 out of the 6 standards have to do with the making of robots. We cannot just allow any random medical robot to perform a surgery. So first we have to clear the technical hurdles before we can talk about the ethics. You have to allow space for the robots to move around. More than 90% of the space at the science park is taken up. That's why we pin our hopes on the Northern Metropolis. We would like to see faster results with a loop. The 5 buildings will be completed soon. The first building is now 75% leased, and then the remaining towers will be open for lease at the end of the year. And we also need our industries to get off the ground. Otherwise, we are very limited in scale. Can we arrange a sandbox for robots? We now have a sandbox for drones. Drones can fly in a certain area within certain settings in a sandbox. Otherwise, there's a problem for robots. They can not move around indoor or outdoor. I'm not as pessimistic as Ms. Quad. Drones have to be subject to stricter requirements. The threshold is lower for robots. For a walking robot or a robot that moves around, it's easy to deploy them. We encourage the use of robots if they meet the requirements. Has anyone who did not get a chance to ask questions? Does anyone who hasn't got to ask questions wish to put questions? We still have time. All right, my turn. And we have to align with our country's development, and that's why we're developing robots. We need both computing power and power supply. So we're now using Western China as a way to provide the computing power to meet the needs of the East. So Shenzhen is now at capacity. So our country is trying to move the residual computing power from Inner Mongolia to Shenzhen. I believe that's fine for the mainland. The substations used to be 5 meters high. Now we're building up at 7.5 meters. In Hong Kong, our facility in Sandy Ridge will be completed soon. Different rules apply in the mainland and in Hong Kong. Can we link up this power grid with Hong Kong and the mainland? We have the Stock Connect in finance, so I wonder if we can link up the computing power of the mainland and Hong Kong. Computing power is accessible across the globe. It's just about the token. I'm not quite sure what Dr. means by opening up. Mainland businesses are welcome to tap into Hong Kong's computing power. Hong Kong's businesses also use the mainland's computing power. Computing power follows businesses. Hong Kong's computing power is tapped by international users. There's a shortage of computing power in the mainland. That will also happen in Hong Kong. That's why we have to build up our computing infrastructure. Now, power supply is a more complicated matter, and the government is now planning ahead. The Sandy Ridge Center will open next year, so we're coordinating across parties, including power suppliers in Shenzhen, the management in Hong Kong, including Hong Kong's power company, and also the users at the Sandy Ridge Center. We should work together so that we can arrive at a sensible arrangement. In the end, the users in Hong Kong will benefit, because in the end, the clients will pay for the power. Collaboration will lead us to an agreeable solution to everyone. That's the medium to short term. For the medium to long term, however, we have to bear in mind the huge demand for power as a result of INT development. So we will need a more sensible arrangement for power supply. That's for the medium to long term. Ms. Quad has more things to say. I talked to Professor Sun about this. The Shantou municipal government approached me recently. There's a policy from the Central People's Government about exporting computing power. So now clients from Singapore can tap the computing power of Shantou. So Shantou's government would like to explore cooperation with Hong Kong. Can they export their computing power to Hong Kong, or can the computing power be exported overseas via Hong Kong? I just wonder what the Secretary thinks about this. We keep an open mind about such collaboration. Exporting computing power is very much about how you do it, and then there's also the issue of data. Now, the data is trained in the mainland, and then it's exported. And we also have to think about what Hong Kong. So business follows, the computing power follows businesses. The computing power is just the hardware. The bigger question is where the data comes from. Our advantage lies in the fact that we have international data. To provide international solutions, we will need Hong Kong. We will have to use the international data, so they will use Hong Kong's computing power. So that's the key point. We're more than happy to work with the mainland on computing power and data. I want to supplement my response. Just then, a number of members and other members raised concerns about the regulation of robots. In February this year, the MIT announced regulations on robots. In the recent months, our country has launched a new policy. The MIT launched something just last month. It's about the life cycle management model rules for robots. The MIT also released a life cycle management platform for robots. Also in May, the National Development Reform Development Commission also wrote out an opinion on embodied intelligence. And then the CACPSB MRRD will also launch a new management measure for robots. Our country moves fast. That's because this industry develops rapidly, embodied AI, robots, etc. So we should learn from that. We lack such application here, so even if we want to get this done, we are struggling. So we have to follow our country's lead and see what we can do. We can start with guidelines. Dr. Geming and his team can study the documents released by our country. We look at our circumstances, and then we can release some guidelines. Does any other member wish to speak? If not, We're done with questions. We thank the officials for joining us. Next item, any other business? We had our first meeting on the 14th of April this year. Members raised certain matters. The Deputy Chairperson and I had a meeting with the administration on their work plan on the 8th of May. We prepared a list of items for discussion, and that list sets out the items proposed for discussion. The list was forwarded to members on the 21st of May. The administration has also scheduled 2 visits for this subcommittee for members to find out about the application of artificial intelligence and robots in industries. The first visit will take place on the 25th of June, that's next Thursday. That visit will be to the Yunlong Barrage and NOLA improvement schemes so that members can find out about the application of AI and robotics in construction. The Secretariat has issued has invited members to join the trip by email. We need 11 members to sign up. So those who have registered, please show up. And those who haven't signed up, please do so. Our third meeting is tentatively slated for October this year. We will hold a joint meeting with the Subcommittee on Developing New Quality Productive Forces. We will talk about the industrial application of AI and robotics. The Secretariat will let members know the date and time of the next meeting. If there's no other business, I adjourn the meeting here. Thank you.